Hello, Anthem family of churches. We're so glad you guys have tuned in. We are in our Celebrate Generosity season, and we're doing this series of weekly videos to talk about the various things, ministry opportunities, initiatives that we're taking with the financial resources that our churches are going to be giving on Celebrate Generosity and the week following. I'm Matt Larson from Anthem Church in Thousand Oaks.
Bert Alcorn, Anthem Ventura.
And I'm Kevin Bailey from Anthem Camarillo.
Today we are talking about the reproducing church, which is fun to talk about because we've all been on the receiving end of other people's generosity to get here, and we've been on the giving end to see new church plants go out. And for us, this value of being a reproducing church comes from a few different texts in Scripture. And one of them is Genesis 1:28, where God says to Adam and Eve, "Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth," and embeds that DNA in humanity. And then again in 2 Timothy 2:2, where Paul is telling Timothy to faithfully reproduce the gospel into future generations. And so for us, as we think about what it means to be a reproducing church, it means that the work doesn't stop with us. It actually is our responsibility to continue the work and to see other churches be planted. And we have tons of stories of how we've gotten to partner with God in that reproducing church story.
One of my favorite stories. They're all my favorite stories. It's kind of like saying,
every single one.
Yeah,
all of them.
Which one's your favorite kid?
Yeah.
So one of my favorite stories actually comes out of San Diego. I think it was probably 8 years ago. Andy Rogers with his wife Jackie, they came up and did a leadership residency with us here in Thousand Oaks, and then we got a chance to, through Celebrate Generosity, provide resources and obviously relationship, and even sent some people, mostly Camarillo sent people, sent some people down to San Diego to help start a restored church. Yeah. And one of the things, I mean, just that in and of itself is a huge win. We gave a bunch of money and helped start a church in San Diego. But what Andy and the team at Restored have done to start more churches out of San Diego, to see another one in Chula Vista, and then in Temecula, and then in Los Angeles, and then they've sent a couple out to North Africa. Like, we've just gotten to see like the multiplying effect. And so really that generosity, it's just bearing fruit for like years, and seeing that go into more cities and countries and more places. It's just so exciting to me to watch that money that, when all said and done on the grand scheme of things, was not a crazy huge dollar amount, but to see that multiply in its effectiveness and its fruitfulness is just a joy.
And what's particularly awesome is, like, not only were churches being planted out of the churches that got planted, but the story of generosity has kept going. And I'm pretty sure like every church we've had a hand in helping plant have also reproduced Celebrate Generosity. And they've had these moments where they call their church to give and give big to benefit someone or something else.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that's cool about it too is that for all of these churches, especially when we started, we didn't have very much to give. We're not talking like we were giving millions of dollars away or any of that. It was like, okay, we've got 120 of us at Anthem Thousand Oaks. We're gonna plant Anthem Camarillo and Restored Church, all basically like 6 months apart from each other. It was not a great game plan from a strategic standpoint. We were like 15 days ahead at best from a financial standpoint, and so there wasn't a whole lot of great logic behind it. But what there was, which matters more than anything, is that Jesus was in it. And I want to share with you guys the story with Restored a little bit more than what Matt said, and that's that this reproducing thing is something that uniquely got birthed within Matt too, that he's shared with a lot of us. And Matt and Andy Rogers, they had a conversation. Andy Rogers was on his way to he was up north, Northern California.
We call it North California.
Whatever. Right. But anyway, he was on his way to go take a job, getting paid a good salary doing, I think, not students, but adult ministry, young adult ministry. And Matt sat down with Andy and just said, "Hey, is this what God's called you to?" And within like a series of, I don't know how long, not very long, Andy realized that he shouldn't go up there and instead he should do a residency with us. And he legitimately said no to that job, raised funds so that he could do a residency and basically work at Anthem for free for 6 months to a year. And he then went out to plant this church that then went out to go plant another 4 churches within 4 years. And then, like Matt said, they even adopted a church out in South Africa. Like, it's been amazing to see. And so, yes, we're excited to share with you guys about Celebrate Generosity and the opportunity to pour into the reproducing church. But I'm just really thankful that this is something that God's built within the fabric of our DNA. And ultimately, it's because of who God is. Yeah. He himself is generous. He's the one that has built this within us. And so we're excited to share this with you and invite you to join us in this faith story of sowing into what it is that God has in store for his church in the future.
One of my favorite stories about Anthem, and like you, many of you watching, I was not around actually for day one. I came in a few years later, but some of you watching were there day one, and you remember this moment when on launch day at Kowloon in Thousand Oaks, after months of planning, preparing, fundraising, team building, all that, Matt gets up and he says, "Hey, well done, church. Like, this is awesome. What a day to celebrate the amazing work God is doing." Brings Kevin up and said, "This is Kevin. Get to know him, get to love him, but don't get too used to him because we're going to send him out first." And at that time, was there a plan?
We knew roughly the plan.
Yeah,
but we didn't know
Matt
the
said
when.
Matt said 6 to 12 months from now we're going to plant him out.
And it was 16 months, so we got close.
It's close, yeah, it's close. Little to no plan, but really what that did is that set the tone from day one, saying, hey, we're not going to be just about ourselves. We're not going to be really concerned with focusing on growing in numbers. We want to send. And even some of you, on launch day, Matt said some of you may go with Kevin. Start praying about that right now. Yeah. And I love that. It really did set in our DNA from the very beginning. And I think that theme rings true today as Matt's going to share like where we're going and where we're giving to this year. Like some of you may go. Yeah. Don't get too comfortable here. God may be asking you to go and contribute to these new church plants.
I just have this one question. The people watching this video, if this were their only exposure, what would they think of my leadership style based on the stories that have been told? I feel like my logic is lacking. I'm very ambitious. There's no plan in place. Let's go.
That's not true. From the moment he asked me to be part of the team, he said, I specifically believe that God's calling you and Keeley to be our first plant to go out. And so even it might sound off the cuff, it's not at all.
Yeah, it's fun to talk
but it's built. Yeah. It's built into you. You can't help it. Totally. It's one of the reasons you actually waited to church plant was because you wanted to be a part of a reproducing story, not just a one plant story.
Yeah. One of the things as Bert was sharing those texts from the scriptures, it just gets me excited to know that every single generation of church is responsible for the next generation of churches being planted. That's leadership development, that's financial resources, that's doing whatever we can as the generation of church, and not even leadership. I'm talking about you guys as well. Whatever we can do to prepare the next generation for the churches that are going to bring the gospel into new people groups, new languages, new cultures. Even when we say new cultures, we mean within like the U.S. culture, like the next era, the next generation. Yeah. So we always want to be thinking forward. And having a reproducing church part of Celebrate Generosity, it disciplines us every year to make sure what's next. Yeah. Like we're asking that question every year. Who's next? What's next? So that leads to what's next? Who's next? Yeah. You guys want to talk about that?
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Sure. I'll chat real briefly about something that's really exciting that I just recently have been able to step into and become a part of, and that's the Genesis Church Planting Cohort. And so if that's new to you, we're connected with the Genesis Collective, and this is a group of like-minded churches that are committed to helping plant churches throughout the globe. And right now there's a cohort, a group of around 12 units, so families and folks who are actually taking a year long to walk through with Terry Fouché, Chris Venon, Rob Hutton, Matt Larson, and their spouses, and they're getting training on how to effectively prepare, dream, cast vision for, and go out and plant a church. And so we're excited to be setting a certain amount of funds aside from Celebrate Generosity this year, the Reproducing Church Fund, towards those groups of folks who are going to be planting in the near future. And so we're really excited about it. I personally just got done doing a month-long apprenticeship with Terry, helping lead through this section of spiritual formation with these folks who are church planting. And I got to tell you guys, it blew my socks off to see these folks from around the world. We have people planting in the Netherlands, folks in Dubai, folks who are planning potentially on going back to Pakistan. We've got folks here in the U.S., legitimately all around the world. And these people are getting trained and they're saying, Lord, here I am, send me. And it is so encouraging to be connected with them. It's also encouraging to be help equipping them. And I'm just really thankful that we're getting the opportunity to now partner and help send them as well.
Yeah, and we also have a really exciting story because we get to send out someone from within. And so a lot of you guys know Garrison and Meredith, and they are on the planting journey towards South Pasadena. And it is a joy to partner with them and help fuel this new gospel movement.
They're going to be planting Steadfast Church in the fall of 2021, as Bert said, in South Pasadena. And we're really excited not only to send resources with them, to send money, to be a part of their story in any way that we can. Like, again, it's our joy. What does it look like to plant churches into the next generation? And we know the need in cities is so huge. And to see somebody that's ready to raise their hand and say, okay, I'm going to go in. Honestly, at this exact moment, when a lot of people are jumping ship, we have somebody that's ready to dive in and say, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to serve and I'm going to love Jesus and lead them back to him. I'm pumped and excited to be a part of this. So we're really looking forward to Celebrate Generosity. We love highlighting these reproducing church stories. So thank you guys again for being a part of this, and we'll see you next time.